Good afternoon. We're 1 week into January 2026, and I'm here with Christian. He's a lead CMMC certified assessor and also the director of operations at DefenseX. How you doing, Christian?
Doing good. Thanks, Danny.
Those of you who've been joining and subscribing to the channel, Christian's putting a lot of information out there, and I'm doing my best to act as your advocate, as the government contractor out there that's trying to learn, trying to gain information to what phase 2 means for those of us that handle COI. And so I'm going to continue that dialogue and that effort to help the ecosystem of us that make up the greater enterprise of the Department of War, Department of Defense, in supporting the warfighter and asking questions on your behalf. What would you offer? What would you recommend to an organization that needs to get a CMMC Level 2 certification today?
Yeah, there's obviously a lot of tips and tricks and information that we could share. But man, just seeing the amount of organizations that we see on a day-to-day basis, seeing what the CMMC assessments look like, seeing how long it can take organizations, depending on their scope, size, complexity, for them to get ready and compliant for ready for the assessment. Also seeing the amount of pressure that's being put on subcontractors in the supply chain. I have, we have some clients at DefenseX that are continuously, like within the month, they've been asked by 3 or 4 of their primes to submit questionnaires to ask them, hey, where are you at with CMMC? How soon are you getting assessed? And they're getting pressured, and thankfully they're on the right path to compliance and have some solid timelines. But this probably resonates with a lot of defense companies out there that are getting forced to fill out questionnaires by primes. They're getting forced to fill out questionnaires potentially by the government. And my advice to these companies is start now. You need to make it a priority right now. I know, and it's a little unfortunate that I know that a lot of defense companies, just like any other type of work, I mean, the clients that we work with are super busy. Everybody has 100 different things to do. And, just to get anything to stick into your priority list, I know it's always going to be a bit of a challenge, but I do have to advise that you start now, or it's going to lead to a very risky situation later. Starting now doesn't necessarily mean, hey, go out and buy some tool right now and just, make it happen. Spend just a little bit of time talking with your staff, maybe just doing some research online on what the different CMMC solutions are out there and available. And, probably one of the biggest tips that I would say for defense contractors that are doing a little bit of research of how am I going to be CMMC level 2 compliant, if that's a requirement for them, they might turn to Google, like, hey, how to get CMMC compliant. You're going to get like 100 different websites pop up, 100 different products. And there's many great service providers and products out there. But one thing that I would advise that you always ask whenever you are looking at a product or looking at a service provider consultant is, hey, is this gonna take me all the way from right now to completely ready for my certification, or are you only providing me a certain piece of the puzzle? I hate to say, but a lot of the service providers, not necessarily service provider, more like products out there, while they might be a great product, maybe it does the file transfers for you, maybe it does the organization of your documentation for you, but there's not any really products out there that provide the full picture, like, okay, this product, that's it, I'm ready, And then oftentimes, that's not made very clear to these defense contractors. So they might end up purchasing a product and then like, oh, I thought it was going to be 100%. That's all we needed to do, just to find like, no, the product only does one slice of the pie. Let's say it only does your information, secure transfer, but it doesn't do anything for the actual workstations that you're working on. And that's just not a very pleasant surprise to find after the fact, after you made an investment and after that you thought that something was gonna, get you taken care of. And so that's my advice. Just ask the questions, like, hey, if you're talking to a service provider, so you're saying that with me and my IT systems, do I need to do anything else or purchase anything else or just work with you and you're going to get us all the way to level 2 compliant and certified? ask those types of questions just to validate the comprehensiveness of whatever it is, the solution that you're looking at. Of course, we at DefenseX have a lot to say about this and have our preferred solutions for some types of organizations. There is no single solution out there that is a one-size-fits-all for every organizations. Defense contractors come in every shape and size, from massive manufacturers to small consulting agencies to, there's everything out there that you can imagine. And so there's no one-size-fits-all for CMMC. Everybody has to find the right solution that's going to work for their organization. I do, another thing that I'd advise is just to get professional help, because these are very specialized standards. Most people, just even have a limited knowledge of IT, let alone a very advanced knowledge of cybersecurity and government compliance standards. These standards are not easy, even for the very long cybersecurity educated and certified professionals and such. So I do advise everybody to at least talk to some level of professional before they, select their compliance journey, or else, you might find out later on that you dug a really big hole in the wrong direction and just wasted a lot of effort. It's not something that's pleasant or that anybody wants. So those are a couple of things that I'd recommend defense contractors that are needing to start their CMMC compliance journey. Start now. Check the comprehensiveness of whatever product or service you're purchasing, and get professional help. Do yourself a favor. This is not one that you just want to try to tackle, using Google or even AI.
Is there an index of like these 4 things? Like, is there like 4 legs to the table? Like you said, hey, they do the data transfer. Is there like these are the heavy things you need to make sure they do?
I think we could probably break down that question into the common CMMC solutions, probably. The MSP route, which for many organizations, I have a very strong argument for why that's the best route. There's the just external consultant route to help us get there.
Yeah.
That I don't recommend that route for any organizations that don't have like a resident, really strong IT and cyber staff already. Because else, as soon as the consultants leave, then there's like doing the product route, or like the little enclave route. Then there's the pros and cons of that, and I can elaborate on that. I think that'd be a series of great videos, honestly.
The main focus is, hey, start now. And on the DefenseX website, it says, click here for a consultation, because time is precious and we're all busy, like you had stated, and I don't have enough time to even get my oil changed in my car. So, I mean, we're all busy. We get that. When somebody makes that call, they have the web call with you, and every client's different, but typically, how long is that call going to take? Is that a 5-minute call? Is it a 20-minute call? What does that feel like to the decision maker at the end of the day?
Our standard for, just our complimentary compliance call that we do, we want it to be 30 minutes worth of value to that organization. Even if we part ways and we find that we're not the best fit for each other as a service provider and organizations, we like to maximize that call just to clarify any questions you might have about CMMC. It's very rare for us to see an organization that actually has really strong clarity about even the requirements. Whether they need level 1, whether they need level 2, whether they're going to need a C3PAO assessment, whether they're going to need to be compliant cloud environment. Very few organizations know those things. So we like to hit just all these things for them. And at the very least, we like to use those 30 minutes to just leave them with, okay, at least I know what I'm probably deficient on and what I probably need to do. And how DefenseX does it. If we happen to be a good fit for one another, that's cool. If not, we like to give them with a complimentary 30 minutes to at least send them off in the right direction. Ultimately, if we're not the best fit for each other, we're all on the same team anyways, supporting the warfighter out there. And so we like to leave them off with as much value as possible.
The challenge of for those of us that are not IT strong, or just can't meet the 110 measures now. So we need professional help. What are the biggest difficulties that you've seen, or your peers, or doing the audits that you conduct as part of C3PAO teams? What are the biggest inhibitors that you see organizations, or that you hear from the staff? Is there anything you could share with the government contractors out there about what are some avoidable inhibitors to becoming compliant?
And just to clarify your question, some of the biggest difficulties and inhibitors that are out there for defense contractors that need to be compliant. I'll list you the top ones that we see, right off the bat. When an organization gets notified or finds out, oh snap, we have this requirement in our contract, or we do have some CUI presentations that we work on with the government, or our manufacturing specifications, our CUI files, and they obviously need to have that CMMC level 2 compliance and certification. Right off the bat, the biggest two things that are going to be their biggest inhibitors and difficulties that they have to overcome is, first, time and resources. Specifically, right now they are all focused on, there's 100 aspects to running a business, from with their defense contractor business. Now, one more rock to be dropped on their pack, kind of like we say in the Marine Corps, one more thing on the to-do list to worry about. And for many of them, it's like, no, just another thing on my to-do list to worry about. You got to file your taxes and do all this, and now we have to worry about this CMMC compliance thing as well. And and many of them will, it only takes a little bit of time to understand that it's a very deep and very complex requirement. And so right off the bat, that's going to cause frustration and resistance, because it's just another complex thing that they have to worry about. As you begin to research the implementation requirements, the requirements for a compliant cloud environment, the requirements for professional assistance, the requirements for potentially some other different softwares or products, then of course, that's very closely related with just the resource requirement. This is going to cost money. And you just need to accept that as a defense contractor. Like the government did put it out there with the whole making of the law in the public comments period. They even listed out estimates for how much this would cost for organizations monetarily. But bottom line, this is going to cost money. You're not going to be able to get away with this without either putting in some time investment and some money investment. Depending on the solution that you go with, you might put in this much time investment and maybe this much money investment, or maybe this much time investment and this much money investment. There's different types of solutions, but all solutions are going to require your time, and all solutions are going to require some money. And there's just no getting away from that. I'd say that's probably the number one biggest inhibitor and difficulty, but most organizations will accept that. It's a cost of doing business, just like anything else. And organizations are, they obviously don't love it, but they're not going to close doors for this. They're still going to continue being a profitable company. They're going to continue the great work that they're doing. The number two biggest inhibitor resistance that I see with organizations in their CMMC compliance journey is the change. And this one is not talked about that much, but we see it all the time. We love organizations that internally do a lot of over communicating with their staff, because it makes the CMMC compliance and adoption so much easier. Nobody wants change, generally speaking. And right now, we've seen many organizations, some of them are operating with sensitive government data on like a personal home station that doesn't even have a password on it, let alone no encryption. And it's kind of like, oh man, you don't even have a password or encryption on that computer whatsoever. Like, that needs to be addressed, And then you face the resistance. Like, well, as kind of like funny as it might sound, there's resistance. Like, I don't think I need a password. I think my computer's pretty secure or something. I installed an antivirus into it or something, But and there's usually a lot of distaste towards anything that is change related. If somebody's used to, like, we've had some individuals that really enjoyed the fact that in the previous unmanaged IT systems, they could install any software, any apps that they wanted to in their computer without any repercussions. Nobody in the company knew about it. Nobody cared. They had like the NFL app, they had gambling apps maybe on their computer, and we'd get a service support call after we implemented the secure configurations, like, hey, I can't download my NFL app anymore. And we're like, oh, that violates a couple of CMMC requirements. There's essential capabilities and there's approved softwares and stuff. Start communicating to your users right now. Hey, there's the CMMC requirement, guys. We're trying to navigate how we're going to attack it as a company, But regardless of what way you do it, there's going to be change involved. Every single solution out there, there's going to be change for your users and how they do business. And it's the requirement for the government. They're very reasonable requirements. Something I've found incredibly helpful too with some organizations, and we're even happy to do it for our clients. Like, I was recently on a call briefing a company. It's like 100+ members on this massive Teams call where I was briefing to the company their plan for their CMMC Level 2 implementations. And something I find incredibly helpful is actually giving them some examples of why the government is even requiring this at all. I showed them some of the most recent cyber attacks that happened throughout the nation. I showed them some other examples of just different rationale for all of the government requirements. And if you haven't yet fully implemented the CMMC requirements, you're going to have change for your company. All your users are going to experience change, and you're much better off just communicating to them right now ahead of time.
Yeah, the capabilities of the U.S. Department of War, Department of Defense is awesome. The web of support and tools and services that support that are all interconnected by cyber communications nowadays, and that's not a linchpin. It's a strength, but it's also a vulnerability. So this is a public service announcement too, that if you're a government contractor for the government, Department of War, Department of Defense, or whatever you do, it's important work. Like I said, it's a great nation we're a part of, and it's a responsibility we have to make sure that we can keep doing what we do. And a large part of that is how we operate as communications, cyber communications. So I feel very personally motivated to help others get where they need to be, because I have people I love and care about that need you to do whatever it is that you do out there because right. It's a web, and like I said, it's teams of teams of teams. So.
Right. It's like the Department of War, Department of Defense, current acting CIO, Katie Harrington. She always says it's one team, one fight, and that's true. I know you and I know it from serving in the Marine Corps that it's a battle of inches, and whenever you're picking up that massive log, everybody's little inches of effort collectively counts, and everybody has to do their part. And for defense contractors, this is part of what they need to do in order for a nation to succeed.
Christian, so for those organizations, like you said, the 100+ organization that you briefed on their migration or their compliance journey, it sounds like they had a very good culture where they were at least informed. Let's say I'm the owner of company X. I got 20 people on my staff, and I do, I make these widgets, or I provide this widget service for the Department of Defense. Let's say I do it for the Navy. What is an avoidable friction point? If I haven't started yet, is what you said just that acceptance of change? Is that probably one of the biggest avoidance of friction points you could give a business owner, an office manager, or a chief of staff of a company to say, this is the number. If you're going to do anything before you start, this is the one thing you want to get started on. Is it communication and acceptance of change? Because change is hard. I mean, that's the hardest thing.
Yeah, I think for their companies as a whole, to include their staff, that's the most important thing they could be doing. Like I mentioned, cost and, leadership, time and resources, that mostly applies to like the corporate leadership, that's a burden on them. Maybe a small reduction in profits, maybe, just an additional cost to be incurred. But as far as the whole staff and everyone, the communication and the expectation for change is the biggest thing that you can be doing to set yourself up for success right now. Let me tell you, when employees do not appreciate their IT platforms getting changed on them without proper notifications, they might get told, like, we've seen some organizations that just that their employees weren't even aware. They're like, what are we doing? Hey, all of a sudden I can't use my thing anymore. Why not? And they take it personally sometimes. It can make them feel unappreciated. It can make them feel like they're just not part of it. Whereas we've also seen some organizations that did such an excellent job at telling the employees, hey, we're not even sure what else is going to have to change, but something's going to change, and it's probably going to be related to the IT system. And so expect something is going to have to change. It might be a little trickier to log on or something, and you might need multi-factor authentication, but something is coming related to the cybersecurity standards, and we're all going to be a part of it together. the adoption is just smooth, like, like, oh, okay, I have to use this MFA app on my phone now. Oh, well, yeah, he did say that, we were going to change. And like, oh man, now I can't just install the NFL app into my corporate workstation. Like, well, they did tell me that change was coming and now it's here.
I will
it's
say
much
your
smoother.
help. Yeah, I will say your help on me. So I had to navigate this MFA, and it was pretty easy. But a lot of
Yeah,
that was you had the support, you had the instructions, and it wasn't hard. So
right,
and
right.
actually, I don't have to actually ever touch it again. It was pretty great. So
Yeah,
I
we,
like that a
we have a
lot.
huge bias in DefenseX. There's so many different ways you can implement the CMMC controls, but not all of the different solutions are the same
Yeah, yours is
simplicity
smooth.
and complexity. Like some of them, and I'm not going to call out any further other solutions providers, but some of them are kind of difficult on the user. If you have to log into a thing, to log into another thing
Yeah,
and do
that's the
MFA
worst.
like 3 times just to be able to only put files in this little place, and
Yeah.
then that's not a conducive environment to making the greatest war fighting technologies on earth to providing the most quality service to our military on earth. And that's something that I do challenge other service providers for, to have a very high regard for what we call in the industry user experience. UX is what it's typically called. And we care a lot about user experience in DefenseX. Um, we want your IT systems to not only be very secure and meet all the rigorous standards of the Department of War, but to also just be easy to use. And I really appreciate the fact that, a lot of our clients come back and give us great positive feedback from all generations, from baby boomers. I believe like our oldest client have signed up. I think we have somebody in the mid 80s. And I was just like, congratulations. I think you're our oldest client, and they're great. Then we have some young Generation Xers, millennials, and everybody is very comfortable using the IT systems. And to us and our team,
So let's say I'm not the highest guy in the totem pole. I'm regular Joe on the staff of a government contractor. What would you say if you had an audience with me, and if I'm reluctant, I'll ask the what's in it for me, the WIPM. So what's in it for me is whatever it is that I do for the company, and you're an actual, you're a lead CMMC certified assessor, and you had just 30 seconds to a minute with me to say, hey, this is why it's important to you. What could you possibly offer to make me care and actually, want to see this through and not just do it, but maybe even be an advocate for it and reinforce the security and watch to my left and right, as being in the military, you're the overwatch too. You're always the guardian angel to that Marine or soldier, sailor, airman, space guardian to your left or right. What do you do to enculturate that? What could you offer me in a minute?
yeah, well, I mean, typically, speaking to this audience and just to elaborate on the importance of these standards and of their, like quality application is, we have some organizations just within the last week. I think just today our team was actually investigating our technologies stopping a cyber incident that could have potentially occurred, just malware being sent to one of our client companies via email. Similarly, probably in the last 3 months, I've spoken with at least 3 organizations that were a subject. They were legitimately exploited. Like the exploit worked. They were in a very unmanaged IT environment. And I'll tell you what, it cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars, all in all, of like reparations, fees, other different requirements. And that's just not something that you want to sign up for. It's important that the sensitive work that the defense contractors do stays confidential. It stays, compliant with the government requirements for who should have access to that information and who not. And I'm sorry, but you're not going to reach the levels of government security just having a password a personal computer without a password that has all the sensitive government data in it. And so these are very important things to implement. And I definitely believe that no matter what your level in the totem pole, that you believe in these standards, that you
Yeah.
believe in why they're being implemented. Similar to safety standards with building codes, we all really appreciate those. And I want my house to be built to all of the federal safety standards and building codes. I appreciate them as an end user, and similarly, so you should be thinking the same of your corporate IT environment.
The application of this are just, your tires, your everything that we just equate to safety. This is just a different version of safety, but and that's what's important, and that's what that motivates me in this, that people's lives actually do matter, and they will be affected or rely on this. That thing you do for the Department of Defense or War matters, and so your work matters, and we want you to protect whatever it is you do. Like, you don't turn your back to your kids at the pool or at the beach. You're alert and you're watching. So that's how our work really should be treated, is we're very conscious that it's there. There's a risk. And in this case, our data's like always in the water. I guess that's the best way to put it. It's always at risk.
No, that makes sense. Something else that I would add, because there might be a lot of defense contractors, like you said, not the top of the totem pole, not the corporate leadership, not the owners, not the decision makers. But I'll tell you what, regardless who you are, if you're an employee of one of these defense contractors, you're an influencer in whatever way that your organization goes. And what I would recommend to you is that you make your corporate leadership aware of the things that you need to do your job. A lot of times, truthfully, that's not communicated to corporate leadership. And just things that you really appreciate about your current IT system. Think about the things that you value. Like, one of the things that we hear the most is a lot of employees, they value having the mobile device apps on their phone, access to their corporate workstation from their personal phone. That's something that, depending on your leadership's decision on what solution to go with, some solutions choose to cut that out completely. And but if you make your corporate leadership aware right now, like, hey, I really appreciate having my Outlook on my phone. I really appreciate having this version of the Microsoft apps. I really appreciate, being able to use this Microsoft Teams to work and collaborate on these CUI presentations with my team. Those are things that you can communicate to your corporate leadership, and that, I'll tell you what, they're going to factor it in their decision whenever they're reviewing different CMMC solutions. Because not all solutions are created the same. Not all solutions will give you the same capabilities. We're definitely big fans of capability over here and understand the type of work that most defense contractors are wanting to do and how they want to use their IT systems. But you, as an employee, no matter what your level in the totem pole, we've never met corporate leadership that just doesn't care what their employees think. That they care. Yeah. They want you to be happy, as much as it's reasonable. Obviously there's a cost measure to it as well. But if you're in a social with your corporate leadership, you guys are having a great time, bring up the CMMC conversation. Bring up what you like as far as your IT capabilities. Hey, I love using my Windows machine to just store files on there. Totally hear it all the time from business leaders. Like, hey, we have a user that really likes using a Mac to work on her CUI that she does on behalf of the government. Can we make that happen? Yeah, totally. Praise on them for knowing what their employees need and what they're doing. And the only reason they know that is because that employee communicated it. So that's one tip to you if you're an employee at one of these defense contractors.
Well, thanks for taking some time with us every day. And right before this call, you threw 2 or 3 more terms at me that I had not heard before. So it's nonstop. We've been going back and forth this way for about 8 weeks now, and I don't even think we're more than a foot deep into your knowledge and your experience yet. So it's pretty impressive. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty awesome that you're willing to share all that experience with everybody out there. It's a great opportunity to take advantage of this. And just as Christian said earlier, get started on this now. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to jump on the phone and get committed tomorrow, but do your research, ask the right question. The main subject today earlier was at least, hey, get started pretty soon. Okay, Christian. Well, thank you for all that information. That was really helpful. What would be, the 30-second elevator pitch you'd make to a government contractor, the IT guy, the business owner, or the office manager? What would you what could you offer them to compel them to reach out to DefenseX?
If you're a government contractor today and you have the CMMC level 2 requirement, or you think you have the CMMC requirement, what I'd recommend to you is to go on our website and book a complimentary consultation. We'll hop on a call with you, talk through your business needs, through the type of work that you do, help you determine what type of compliance requirement your organization might have, clarify any requirements associated with CMMC, maybe answer some common questions, and leave you off with as much clarity and hopefully a clear pathway as possible. We consider ourselves servants, supporting those who are supporting the warfighter, and therefore it would be an honor to serve you.